Welcome to Built in the Bluegrass, a podcast dedicated to cool stuff made in Kentucky. We want to share with you how it was made, why it was made, and the story behind it. And now, here's your host.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Built in the Bluegrass. We're doing something a little bit different today. We've been throwing curveballs at everybody lately. I am, on set, kind of in studio with Bourbon Barrel Foods, and we are here with Matt Jamie, the owner and founder of this lovely company. Thank you all for tuning in and listening, and I will let him introduce himself.
Well, first, thanks for coming to me. Whenever anybody wants to do something like this, I think it's important, in telling my story, about the how and the why, for you to actually see it.
Right.
So I'm Matt Jamie. I'm the founder and owner of Bourbon Barrel Foods.
Good deal. Nice to meet you. So when did all this kind of get started?
So we're in year 18.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I started this in my basement. In 2006 was our official start date. But, I began researching how to do everything that we do in about 2003.
Okay.
2002, I maybe came up with the idea. I wasn't living in Kentucky at the time. I was raised here, but I was in Gainesville, Florida. And, we're going to dive right in, okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, we haven't told anybody what I do yet, but this Bourbon Barrel Foods, we have over 150 products.
Okay.
But it all started with soy sauce. So I micro brew soy sauce.
Oh, wow.
It's my most popular product. It sounds weird doing it in Kentucky, but after you talk to me for a little bit, it makes total sense. And then there's the why soy sauce question.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't some lifelong passion for brown, briny liquid. It was just identifying something that no one else was doing and then trying to break it down to its artisanal components. And so that's kind of what I did. I mean, it was just, I was in Florida. And we just dove right in, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
Do you have? I'm already answering the question that you were going to ask.
No,
I knew what was coming.
It was. How did this get started? And if that's the origin story, that's what we want.
So yeah, I was in Florida. I was going to graduate school at the University of Florida. I was studying exercise physiology, getting my master's degree there. With a year in, and I'm not a good student, and that is a tough program when it comes to exercise physiology. It's really, really hard. It was like going to Harvard Law, and so it was demanding, very scientific, and I was
a lot of anatomy.
I was struggling. Yeah. Stuff that I didn't know. So I dropped out. And I got a job at a restaurant, because I thought I cooked well, and it was just a hobby at the time. And so I got a job at a restaurant doing sauté, and it was everything happens for a reason, right? We end up where we're supposed to end up, and I ended up at that restaurant under a chef that loved to teach, and he gave me a classical French culinary training while I was getting paid and working. I mean, it was amazing. A hobby turned into a passion, right? I didn't realize that that's what it would be, but it was late in life. I was married at the time, and being saying you're gonna be a chef is something that should be on the table prior to an arrangement like that, right? So it's a demanding career. So I was angling for a way out of the kitchen after about 2.5 years. One night with a buddy of mine, we were at an oyster bar, we were drinking, and he was like, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. No one's microbrewing soy sauce in the U.S."
Don't think
genius idea. So when you have ideas like that, and you think it's a genius idea, you know, I think Google was relatively new. It's like, okay, you know, if I think it's such a good idea, has anyone else had it? You know, no one else was doing it, right? And I'm like, okay, awesome. All right, well, there's got to be a reason why no one's doing it. So then I started to go down that rabbit hole. And there was not a good enough reason that I could find to keep me from doing it. And like the only barrier to entry was maybe that it takes 6 months to make, which is, you know, not long at all. Knew I was moving back to Kentucky, 2005, continued to research it and started to see similarities and parallels, not only in, you know, the way soy sauce is made and the way bourbon is made, but also history, heritage, tradition between, you know, the two products, which, you know, other than maybe color, you know, they're not that similar, you know, to everybody else, but I started to see them. And I was like, you know, I saw this thing happening in the bourbon industry, and it was just starting its trajectory in growing in popularity. And I was like, I could piggyback on that with a product like this.
It's awesome. You kind of found two niches and combined them together to...
It was, I mean, blind passion,
right.
Vision, and, you know, the right thing coming to me when I needed it, right? I worked really closely with the University of Kentucky Ag Marketing and Ag Economics Department. They put me in touch with growers, helped me with supply chain, and that was when I was doing it in my basement, right? And, you know, I still have a lot of those original relationships.
Nice. What were some of the... I kind of get on YouTube rabbit holes. I love watching some people like Pro Home Cook. They do stuff on YouTube where they either ferment or they make their own soy sauce. They show how to, you know, people to cook at home economically, grow their own food, things like that, which is really awesome. What were some of the very early materials that you used to make your soy sauce?
Well, I mean, soy sauce, you know, it's 5 ingredients: soybeans, wheat, salt, water, yeast. Our 6th ingredient might be the bourbon barrel. That's what I call it, because, you know, we do age in a barrel. You know, I had that chef bravado. You know, it's like 5 ingredients. What's going to go wrong? You know, it was like the most difficult part was, you know, figuring out how to press it after it sat there for a while.
Oh, yeah.
It was, for me, I liken, you know, there's a couple steps to the process. So there's a dry and a wet. It's like activating yeast to make bread. It's time, temperature. Right. You know, and
so it's technically a fermentation.
It is a fermentation.
There's
a yeast in
koji and...
So koji, old world style, Japanese fermentation.
Right.
Right. I wrote a business plan, like a very solid business plan, maybe the most thorough thing I've ever done. You know, serious. Like I was on a mission, and, you know, the business plan, I still have it. Like, it's a living document. Right? It took me through all the exercises that I needed to go through, whether I knew it or not, to be able to have this, because the business plan was just for soy sauce, you know, making, marketing, selling, all those things. And then, you know, I got to the point where, you know, I was at a jumping off point. I needed to move out of my basement and into a facility, but I was like, how the hell am I going to pay for this?
Right.
And so I started doing, you know, things like bourbon smoked sea salt, bourbon smoked pepper, because if you ask for the salt in my house, you got the pepper also, and paprika and sugar and some other sauces that didn't take 6 months to make. And so all the research I did on how to make soy sauce set me up to be able to do all the things that I do with Bourbon Barrel Foods. If Bourbon Barrel Foods, the name wasn't mentioned in my business plan.
Oh, wow.
At all. And I tried to keep them separate. It was Bluegrass Soy Sauce Company, Bourbon Barrel Foods. Eventually, my accountant said, this is one company. You've commingled everything to the point where the IRS is not going to believe you if you try and tell them it's two separate companies. So, you know, the research I did, that business plan helped me with doing all this. I wasn't afraid to do it. There was never any fear. I had honestly no idea what to be afraid of, which helped me move fast.
Yeah.
And I think it's an asset, not knowing that.
Right. Blindly ambitious, really.
Blindly passionate, ambitious, yes.
Yep.
You know, I was asked at one point when it was still in the idea phase to wait, you know, that, hey, this is a great idea, but I you know, let's just do it later. And I'm so glad that I didn't listen. I went and did it, because what the company has become is like that specialty foods component to the whole bourbon country experience. And, you know, we're in year 18, but like 18 years ago, bourbon industry did not have the support that it has from the state of Kentucky or the city of Louisville. And, right. You know, we're in Louisville. We see what's happened downtown. I mean, 23 million unique visitors to the city, all for bourbon.
Right, mainly, yeah.
And maybe one horse race a year. So right. It's interesting to me. And it was timing, you know, and just being ready. I don't believe in luck. I was prepared to do the soy sauce. Everything else that happened, I was ready for. I was absolutely ready for.
Nice.
And, you know, 150 products plus later, it's like, I'm not sure I could run anybody else's company, but I'd do mine okay.
Right. Good. So 18 years in, it started in Florida. Now you're in Kentucky.
The idea was in Florida. Started it here. Like, I love Louisville. I love Kentucky. And even when I was cooking in Florida, like my chef was all about Virginia hams. And I'm like, like, let's get some Kentucky ham. And I finally got them switched over. You're in Florida, so they all want to use molasses, which is, you know, it's a byproduct of making sugar. I wanted sorghum. I just loved what the state of Kentucky has had to offer culinarily my entire cooking career.
Yeah, there's a lot of farm-to-table restaurants in the area that are amazing. So that's good.
Well, and, you know, this state is highly regarded around the country for the things that we do with food. You know, it's not just fried chicken, right? I mean, it is
not just KFC.
Very, you know, look at what we do with country ham. I mean, the history that we have with it, sorghum, bourbon, used culinarily. I mean, those things are, you know, it's interesting to people. You know, we've got this like little piece of the country that is very unique. I mean, if you look at where Kentucky is, we're like the southernmost Midwestern city. And the northernmost southern city. So it presents like a very unique sense of hospitality.
Right.
People that are from here are very proud of the city, you know, and where they're from. And I love that. You know, I love being a tour guide when people come here, you know. And so, you know, positioning ourselves the way we did as that specialty food component to the whole bourbon country experience, has helped us to grow. And, you know, it's been 18 years. It's been a steady growth. So we're strong and healthy. You know, I've met people, you know, they've become friends that have started companies and sold them after a few years for, you know, a lot of money. That's not my story. You know, I'm not done with my story. Like, I want to grow this thing. Like, I have a vision for it. And it's, you know, blind ambition, blind passion. You know, I've grown it from my garage to this, where we are. And it's like, I wanted to have you in here because I wanted to show it off.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
You know, we are a reprieve to people coming here to visit all the distilleries. As great as they are, I mean, sometimes you need a little bit of a break. You know, I did speak with the local CVB, like the Convention and Visitors Bureau, about what they thought if I did something like this here. And we're sitting in our event space right now. This is the start and stop of our tour. So we do all of our manufacturing here. And I'm going to show you around when we're finished. But I grew from when I moved in this building, 800 square feet. We're at about 60,000 square feet now. And we will make about 10,000 gallons of soy sauce this year. We do all the spice smoking here on site. 15 different spices and spice blends and growing. And it is. It makes me smile when I like think about how I used to do things.
Small batch.
I get ready to show you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still small batch, and where I've scaled in a lot of areas, but I've maintained the integrity of how we do things. It's important to me, from the how and like the where we get things. I love to know where my stuff comes from.
Oh yeah.
It's important to the people that we sell to. It's important to me. It's how I shop. And this company's a big piece of me.
Yeah, I like to see products that have pretty short ingredient labels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nothing too complicated.
My original tagline was slow, small, simple, but then everybody got that confused with me. I was like, no. So we moved on to Eat Your Bourbon.
Right. So we got, you said 60,000 square feet.
Yes.
150 products plus, probably, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the top sellers that you have? Other than the soy sauce is probably your biggest one, but what are some products that people may see on the shelf or a couple of places they can find it?
Right. I get that question a lot. I always answer it two ways. So my most popular product is soy sauce. It's how people find us. My number one seller is not branded Bourbon Barrel Foods. I do the licensing for Brown-Forman brands like Woodford Reserve, Old Forester.
Yeah.
We do a few Jack Daniel's products. So we do a cocktail cherry for Woodford Reserve. That's my number one. But right behind that is a Woodford Reserve old-fashioned cocktail syrup. You can think of the amount of backstory and education that I have to give to somebody when I'm trying to sell microbrewed soy sauce. You put a jar of cocktail cherries with the brand Woodford Reserve on the shelf. I mean, it's kind of, it's instinctual. You know how to use a cocktail cherry, right?
Right.
So, it's my number one seller. It's easier to use. I'm proud to have the partnership that we do with them. I signed my first contract with them about 10 years ago.
Okay.
And I think I have maybe a little more than 24 products with them right now.
So shout out to my wife, but my wife works at Barn 8.
Okay.
Which is owned by Steve Wilson, Lorley Brown. Mm-hmm. So they have a little farm store in there. I've probably seen your products in there.
Yeah, you have.
Yeah, 100%. So
well, now you'll see it even more that you've made this connection.
I know.
So
I'll see it and I'm like, bet I know the person that cultivated that.
So this space that we're in, this was about a 2-year renovation to get to the 60,000 square feet. I started, and I've renovated every square foot of 60,000 square feet. And I didn't realize that until maybe it was fall of last year when we completed everything. And, I had been gone for like 8 days and I walked in and I was like, oh my, like this room was finished. And I was like, I just redid like 60,000 square feet. Like over there. And, we had to start somewhere, and we started with our shipping area, our warehouse area. And then we moved into the production areas, which, this building was built in the late 1800s, like 1890s. And so the last company that was in here was like a metal plate stamping factory.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Dingy, dark. They weren't making food. So I had to make all sorts of changes and adjustments, putting in floor drains, better lighting, wipe down walls in areas for where we do the smoking. And then same thing in the soy sauce area. Those two areas are about 20 to 25,000 square feet combined. And the warehouse and the shipping. And then I have offices, in the middle of the building, 3 floors. and then our event space. And this was the last thing that we did. I mean, like I said, I had been gone 8 days. I walk in and I'm like,
finally complete.
Right. It was a very proud moment. Like, I mean, I can get emotional. I cry during Ford truck commercials sometimes. So,
yeah.
Like, but even just thinking about this, like it, because it was, I have a great team, but it was like all those memories of like how I started and where I am now, like where it was just me. And then it was me and my mother, me, my mom, my dad, my mom, my dad, my best friend from high school, she's still with me. Mom's still around. Dad touched a lot of this. And, well, shit, I hadn't done that in months. Dad passed away in November.
Oh, okay. Sorry to hear that.
He didn't. I appreciate it. But Dad had a business background, and I didn't. I wasn't ready to listen to him. Like, he had an idea of how he could help me, but I just wasn't ready to hear it until we started like operating as a real company. And then I had an appreciation for that eventually.
Right.
But Dad, we moved here because he worked with GE, for GE, and you can imagine I'm a creative, and a lot of my decisions are based on gut feeling and emotion. Like, trying to teach myself objectivity is hard. My dad was an engineer, left side brain thinker.
Right.
He brought a set of skills, that he knew he could offer right away, like in year 1 or 2. But it was probably like a whole lot later before, we were ever
before
able
it kicked
to
in to make sense.
Utilize Dad to his full potential.
Right.
But I've surrounded myself with people that, I want to say it protects me, but they do the things that I just can't do. And it has, it's insulated me from myself, right? I can be my own worst enemy. And growth for the company started as soon as I realized the value in hiring people to do the things that I just am not good at.
Gotta fit in the right puzzle pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Matt. Well, let's tell everybody where we can find you, the website, where you're located. We're sitting in the event space, and we're going to take a tour later.
Mm-hmm.
If people want to do some events or something here, so let them know how they can reach you.
Yeah, so we're in Butchertown, which is just east of downtown Louisville. It's a historic part of town, and this is 1201 Story Avenue. Our website's bourbonbarrelfoods.com, and we do tours, pretty much every day of the week, by schedule. I don't know if I've mentioned it, but it's really unique. People always leave here really impressed with what we've done. And I don't mind saying that. Like, I'm proud of that because it's different.
Mm-hmm.
We can do events in here. We've had 50 to 60 people in here. We can comfortably seat 20 for dinner. And it's a unique experience. A lot of it, with the tour, we do our tasting. So we will take you through all 4 soy sauces that we make, and we sample 5 of our core spices that we do. And when we do events in here, like, the chefs always showcase everything that we make.
Nice.
In their style.
All right, guys. Well, if you want to get married here or have lunch, or
I'm also an officiant.
Oh, there you go.
Sent away for
an all-in-one package.
I'm just waiting for that moment when can anybody marry us? Well, as a matter of fact,
he's stuck in Louisville traffic on the Spaghetti Junction. We got to have somebody else.
I don't ever drive during rush hour.
Oh no.
It's a perk of owning your own business. I can leave really early.
Right.
Get here late.
All right, guys. Well, This is Matt Jamie. He's the owner and founder of Bourbon Barrel Foods. Check out the website. Come visit. Louisville is lovely, and we're only getting bigger, better things in this area. So come check it out. We do have some stuff back here. These are examples. Go get some, soy sauce, some cocktail cherries, whatever you all like that comes from the website. And thank you all for listening. And this is Built in the Bluegrass. Tom Lawson, host and executive producer now. So hopefully we can do some more stuff with these guys. And it was a pleasure hearing about your story, where you came from and where you are now. And, maybe in a year from now, we'll come back by and do a little update story or something.
I can guarantee in a year it'll be completely different. So, so we'd love to have you.
All right. Thanks, guys, for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Built in the Bluegrass. We hope you're leaving this episode with a better understanding of the cool stuff made in Kentucky. If you haven't done so already, make sure you're subscribed to the show. This way you'll get notified as new episodes become available. Until next time.